Supporters of President Donald Trump storm U.S. Capitol in Washington during congressional certification of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's win, resulting in 5 deaths and prompting evacuation of lawmakers and Vice President Mike Pence. After a day of chaos, Congress certifies Joe Biden's election victory. Vice President Mike Pence made Joe Biden's victory official early Thursday despite mayhem at the Capitol that delayed proceedings. President Trump: there would be an orderly transition. This briefing has ended. Follow our latest coverage of the presidential transition. After a day of chaos, Congress certifies Joe Biden's election victory. Lawmakers and Republicans effort to subvert the election in an early morning vote. I thought we'd have to fight our way out. Scenes of mayhem from the Capitol. Woman who was killed during the attack was shot by the Capitol Police. Trump openly condones supporters who violently stormed the Capitol, prompting Twitter to lock his account. Police, under fire for their response, say they arrested at least 52 people in connection with the Capitol mayhem. As the D.C. police clear the Capitol grounds, the mayor extends a public emergency. White House officials resign, with more expected to follow. Transcript: to those who wreaked havoc in our capital today, you did not win. Violence never wins. Freedom wins, and this is still the people's house. When I arrived in Washington this morning, I fully intended to object to the certification of the electoral votes. However, the events that have transpired today have forced me to reconsider, and I cannot now in good conscience object to the certification of these electors. Hitting gavel, on this vote, the yeas are 6, the nays are 93. The objection is not sustained. The Secretary will notify the House of the action of the Senate, informing that body that the Senate is now ready to proceed to joint session with further counting of the electoral vote for President and Vice President. In the Senate of the United States ordered that the Senate, by a vote of 7 ayes to 92 nays, rejects the objection to the electoral votes cast in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for Joseph R. Biden for President and Kamala D. Harris for Vice President. Ordered that the House of Representatives rejects the objection to the electoral vote of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The votes for President of the United States are as follows: Joseph R. Biden Jr. of the state of Delaware has received 306 votes. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 232 votes. Congress confirmed President-elect Joseph R. Biden Jr.'s victory early Thursday morning, hours after a mob of loyalists surged on by President Trump stormed and occupied the Capitol, disrupting the final electoral count in a shocking display of violence that shook the core of American democracy. President Trump, who spent months stoking the anger of his supporters with false claims that the election was stolen and refused to condemn the violent protesters on Wednesday, said early Thursday that he would respect the results of the election. Even though I totally disagree with the outcome of the election, and the facts bear me out, nevertheless there will be an orderly transition on January 20th, he said in a statement. Trump's comments came moments after Mr. Biden's victory was certified shortly before 4 a.m. by a joint session of Congress presided over by Vice President Mike Pence. There was no parallel in modern American history, with insurgents acting in the president's name, vandalizing Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office, smashing windows, looting art and briefly taking control of the Senate chamber, where they took turns posing for photographs with fists up on the dais where Mr. The upheaval unfolded on a day when Democrats secured a stunning pair of victories in runoff elections in Georgia, winning effective control of the Senate and the complete levers of power in Washington. The siege was the climax of a weeks-long campaign by Mr. Trump, filled with baseless claims of fraud and outright lies, to try to overturn a democratically decided election that he lost. We gather due to a selfish man's injured pride, and the outrage of supporters who he has deliberately misinformed for the past 2 months and stirred to action this very morning, Senator Mitt Romney, Republican of Utah and the 2012 presidential nominee, said after the chamber reconvened. What happened here today was an insurrection incited by the President of the United States. Wednesday evening, Mr. Biden, seeking to tamp down the anarchy that Mr. Trump stoked with angry language just hours earlier, Mr. Biden urged rioters to abandon what amounted to an armed occupation of the House and Senate. The president-elect denounced Mr. Trump's refusal to graciously accept defeat, and suggested that the president was to blame for the violence. At their best, the words of a president can inspire, Mr. Biden said. At their worst, they can incite.